Hi there, my name's Claire Samuels, founder of No Ironclad Training, and I'm delighted to be delivering this video for you. So today's video is all around giving feedback. And I guess the first question we need to ask ourselves is, why do we give feedback in the workplace? Well, we give feedback to reward and praise people to help them feel motivated. We give feedback to help improve performance. And also we give feedback to let people know how they are doing. And there's an interesting survey recently that's been published that tells us employees would rather receive developmental feedback, so feedback where they need to do something better, as opposed to receiving no feedback at all. So feedback, really important thing for us to do to keep our people motivated. There are two types of feedback that I'd like to talk to you about. The first one is positive feedback, and that's when we're rewarding or praising somebody. And the second one is developmental feedback, where we want people to do something differently. Now, I've heard developmental feedback called constructive criticism or negative feedback. I really prefer the word developmental because it's a much more positive word, and it helps people think that they're going from A to B because they're developing and they're going somewhere better. Feedback's a really big topic, and I've broken it down into 5 different elements, and I've beautifully wrapped up those 5 elements in an acronym for you. It's another training model, and this time we're calling this training model BOOST. BOOST, a bit like the stunning underrated 1980s chocolate bar. So BOOST stands for balanced, observed, objective, specific, and timely. Let's start then, if we may, with the B, balanced. And what I mean around balanced is people really need to have 5 pieces of positive feedback to 1 piece of developmental. So throughout the year, we need to be giving both positive and developmental, and we need to be doing it at a ratio of about 5 to 1. Now, some of you may have heard of that model called the feedback sandwich. Sometimes it's referred to something else. But the feedback sandwich in 2024, it doesn't really work. People have cottoned onto it, and they are expecting you to give them positive feedback, then some developmental, and then some positive. So it might be, that was a really good report, please don't come in late, and I really like your tie, or whatever it is. So we want to stay away from the feedback sandwich and either give developmental feedback or positive feedback. Now, if you have an hour's one-to-one with somebody, absolutely you can bring in both elements. And what I would recommend you do if you're giving somebody feedback in a 5-minute conversation is either give them positive or either give them developmental, and we'll stay away from that sandwich. Let's move on to the O then, observed. And it's much more powerful when we're giving feedback if it comes from us. It comes from the first person. So far better for me to say, I noticed on Monday and Wednesday you came in at 9:30 for your 9 o'clock shift, rather than Dave in accounts noticed you came in on Monday and Wednesday at 9:30 for your 9 o'clock shift. So please give feedback from the first person, give it from yourself. You'll also see that I used the verb noticed when I gave that feedback. I noticed. Having done years of research on powerful, positive, persuasive language, my recommendation is that we use the verb noticed. It's not a verb that is too strong. It's a neutral verb. I'm not saying I've been spying on you, I've been watching you, I've been observing you. I'm saying I noticed. It's much, much more gentle. And the reason it's so useful for you to use is because it helps the message land a lot better with the person that you're giving feedback to. The second O then is objective. And we need to be objective when giving feedback as opposed to subjective. So if I'm being objective, I'm describing the behaviour. If I'm being subjective, I'm using words with value judgments on. For example, I think you're a bit lazy. I think you're too chatty in team meetings. I thought you were really rude this morning when you spoke to the customer. They are all subjective words that I'm using. Let's take that last example about being rude. Rather than say to somebody, I thought you were rude when you spoke to the customer, I'm going to be really objective. And the way for me to be objective is to describe the behaviour. For example, I noticed when you spoke to the customer this morning, you rolled your eyes, you raised your voice, and you slammed the door on the way out. So in terms of being objective, describing the behaviour is far more useful than using those subjective words. And the reason that it's so useful for you is because it will help the message land with the other person in the best way possible. And they'll be far more likely not to be defensive, not to get emotional, and not to get upset. And of course, that's not what we're wanting. The S of Boost stands for specific. And research tells us people get very, very frustrated when they receive feedback because they don't really know what they need to do differently. And the reason being because whoever's delivered the feedback has been really, really vague. So we need to be as specific as possible, whether that's dates or times or areas of a report that needs to be done differently. We need to have the specifics with us. For example, if I was talking to somebody about being late and I said, oh, you've just been late loads the last few weeks, you're always late. The person doesn't actually know specifically when they were late. If I say to them, I noticed on Monday, Wednesday and Thursday, you came in at 9:30 for your 9 o'clock shift, they know exactly when they were late and by how long they were late. So being specific, really, really helpful. And the final part of Boost, the T, that stands for timely. So when we are giving feedback, really important that we consider the time frame. Imagine if you've done something brilliant, you've worked really, really hard on a project, you deliver the project, and then nobody says to you for about 3 weeks, oh, well done, thank you so much, that was fantastic. In those 3 weeks, you're probably thinking, gosh, I worked really hard, nobody's thanked me, nobody's praised me, and you'd start to become demotivated. So giving feedback in a timely manner is really, really useful. The same with developmental feedback. If somebody is constantly making a mistake and we think, oh, I'm sure they'll sort it out, and we don't address it, they'll continue to make that mistake, which will have an impact on their work. So in terms of the T and timely, please make sure, as I say, I nip it in the bud. Nip it in the bud, give feedback as soon as possible. So I've got a model that I'd like to share with you called AID, A-I-D. And this model is fantastic for us to get the message out straight away. I'm just going to repeat that because it's so important as to why we're using AID. It's for us to get the message out straight away. What tends to happen is we're putting off having this conversation. We don't want to give the feedback. We stay awake at night. We worry about it. We get the person in front of us. And then it's like, oh no, I don't want to address it. How was your weekend? How's your football team? How's your dog? And we just go around the houses, beat around the bush, and we address everything apart from the feedback itself. So this beautiful little model is going to really, really help us to get the message out. So AID, the A stands for action. So this is the thing that the other person has done that we're giving feedback on. The I is impact. What impact did that action have? And the D is do. What would I now like to do once I've told you? So AID. Let's break that down then, if we may, into a little bit more detail. So action, we're giving feedback on what the person has done. And it's as simple as, I noticed on Monday and Wednesday, you came in at 9:30 for your 9 o'clock shift. It's that simple. You'll see there that I used the verb noticed, I was really clear about the days, and I was really clear about the timings. And that's all it is, that's simple. The I is the impact. The impact is Jenny had to work through her lunch. Now the impact can be the impact on Jenny. It can be the impact on the customer, the impact on the supplier, the impact on me, the impact on you, the impact on the team, the impact on productivity. The impact can be on anything. We need to let the person know, though, what the impact actually was. And then the D, the do, what I'd love us to do is have a conversation now about your timekeeping. Now, AID is only about 10-15 seconds. That's all it is. We're not giving the other person at this moment a chance to speak. We are getting the information out. I'm going to run through the AID with that example. I noticed on Monday and Wednesday you came in at 9:30 for your 9 o'clock shift. The impact was Jenny had to work through her lunch. What I'd like us to do now is have a conversation about your timekeeping. So that's probably 10 or 11 seconds. Then what we do, we've got the D out. We then ask a beautiful question. And the killer question is, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that? So we're doing aid, and then what are your thoughts on that? And then they will tell us, and they will say, no, I wasn't late, or it was the roadworks, or I missed my bus, or I overslept, or whatever I've got childcare issues, whatever it is, they will tell us. But what we've been able to do by using aid is get everything out onto the table. We're being open, honest, clear. We're not putting any value judgments on it. We're explaining exactly what they've done, what the impact is, and what we would like to do. In terms of the D, the do, I always highly recommend that we say what I'd love us to do is have a conversation around it, because those two-way conversations are really, really useful. Some people might say, what I want you to do is get here on time next week. Now, you can say that if you've got a huge amount of trust with somebody and they know you and they really like you and it's really unusual that they've been late, you can say what I'd like you to do is get here on time. But always I would recommend finding out from the other person why they were late, what's going on in their world, and really discover what things are like from their point of view. So to summarise, really simple, action, impact, do. What are your thoughts on that? So through the world of videos and theatre, I'm going to take you now to another world, and we are going to meet two characters. So we are going to meet Jane and we're going to meet Matt. Jane is Matt's manager, and Jane is going to be giving Matt some feedback around his timekeeping. Have a look at this. If you'd be kind enough just to jot down some notes, particularly about Jane, the manager. What was her body language like, her tone of voice? What do you think she did well? Where might she be able to improve? And also just jot down a mark out of 10 as to how effective was Jane in giving feedback. Hi Matt, how are you?
Hey Jane, yeah, good thanks. Just on a break.
Yeah, busy actually. A quick word, Matt. One of the directors has said you've been in late recently a few times.
Who said it?
Well, I can't say.
Was it Mick?
Well, I can't say, it'd be unprofessional.
Was it Mick though?
Well, yeah, it was, but don't tell him I told you.
Oh, I can't believe this. He's always had it in for me.
Look, the thing is, Matt, please, can you just get here on time? It looks bad on me. I have enough hassle with the powers that be. It makes me look like I can't manage my team effectively.
Well, the thing is, I've actually been having a bit of a headache at the moment with the roadworks on the ring road.
Yeah, sure, but please, Matt, I just need you to get here on time.
Yeah, okay, I will try. I will do my best.
You probably just need to get up earlier.
Yeah, okay, I've said I'll try.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
So that was Jane and Matt. What mark are you giving Jane out of 10? I gave her a 2, but just for turning up and actually having the conversation. So you'll notice there, Jane was doing many, many things that she needs help with. So let's start the video right at the beginning and cast our minds back. When she came in, he was on a break. So she invaded his space. She talked to him when he was on a break. So already he's feeling disengaged, disempowered. She hadn't prepared the meeting, had she? She hadn't said to him, let's have a conversation in 2 hours. She'd just gone in there, charged in, pulled up a seat and said, quick word, Matt. Quick word, Matt. And there are a couple of things that aren't useful around that phraseology, quick word, Matt. First of all, she's saying quick. So in Matt's mind, he's probably thinking, well, if it's quick, it's not that important. So by using phrases like, oh, just have a quick chat and quick word, what we're doing immediately is undermining the importance of the conversation. And also by using that phrase, quick word, Matt, it's quite instructional, isn't it? So it's not making Matt feel warm and relaxed and that they're going to have a positive conversation. Did you notice she didn't follow aid in terms of the action? It wasn't I noticed, it was one of the directors noticed. So again, she's not taking ownership, she's not taking responsibility. When Matt asked who it was, eventually she disclosed that it was Mick, one of the directors. So it's useful for us to think about, after this conversation, what is Matt going to go and do? Well, he's probably going to go and speak to Mick and say, why have you said this? Or if he doesn't do that, because Mick's a director, he's not going to be open and honest and friendly, and he's going to think badly of Mick. Jane made it about her. She said, this looks bad on me. It makes me look that I can't manage my team effectively. So again, she's making the conversation about her. It's not about her. It's all about Matt. And actually, Jane should be doing about 20% of this conversation. She should be asking Matt questions, finding out what's going on for him, finding out why he's late, probing. She's not doing any of that. She's making it all about her. She had quite childish body language, didn't she? She was rolling her eyes. When Matt said, I'll do my best, she went and tutted at him, rolled her eyes, almost stormed off at the end. Her tone of voice was very childlike. She was saying, please, Matt, please, will you just do it for me? Very, very childish, totally inappropriate and not very professional. So what mark have you given Jane? So the great news for Jane, and more specifically for Matt, is that Jane has now watched these videos. She's taken this course just like you, and she's very familiar with AID and with Boost. So let's watch the conversation again. Feel free to jot down how you think Jane did, what she did well, and also feel free to give her a mark out of 10. Have a look at this.
Hi, Jane.
Hi, Matt. Grab a seat.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. You?
Yeah, good, thanks. Thanks so much for your time, Matt. I wanted to talk to you about your timekeeping. So I noticed last week on Monday, Tuesday and Thursday you were 20 minutes late. The impact was the rest of the team had to work late through lunch to complete all the data entries. What I'd like us to do now is to have a conversation about you getting to work on time. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure.
So that was Jane and Matt. How do you think Jane did this time? I would give her a very high mark, something higher than a 9.5 maybe. She planned the meeting, she was very clear, she went through the stages of AID, she brought the elements of Boost into it, and she asked that beautiful question to Matt, what are your thoughts on this? Well, thanks so much for watching our video on feedback. We looked at the AID model, we looked at Boost. What's really interesting is we talked about with the AID model, action, impact, do. We then asked that question, what are your thoughts on that? And then have a wonderful two-way conversation. And you can find out how to have that wonderful two-way conversation in another one of our videos called Coaching. In the coaching video, we'll look at the GROW model and we will find out how can Jane have that conversation with Matt where she's listening to him, she's asking him questions, she's finding out what's going on from his perspective. So please look out for the coaching video, and thanks so much for your time today. Good luck, everybody, with your feedback conversations.